It's not a lot of substance in any of the proposals put forward by Republicans to fix our country's immigration system. But there is a vision. It's cruel. It's awful. It won't fix a thing, but it is a plan. So what's the Biden administration's plan? Well, as far as running the country properly, it's been pretty comprehensive and effective. Wages are up, inflation is under control, the stock market is hitting records, consumers are feeling more confident, manufacturing is coming back, and God forbid, if we have another pandemic, our supply chains are stronger. America has rallied all of NATO and 20 more countries to fend off Russian expansionism in Ukraine. Our success there is probably keeping the Chinese from invading Taiwan and the North Koreans from blowing stuff up. The Biden administration has a lot to brag about as we head into 2024, but we have seen time and time again that those issues are not registering with voters.
We don't have much time on our hands, and Americans are probably going to end up paying for this. You see, it's clear that both Democrats and Republicans struggle to work with one another. It's like they're always at odds about something. And to be honest with you guys, it feels like the American people suffer for it. With inflation the way it is, and sure, it's slowing down, but that doesn't mean that goods suddenly get cheaper in Walmart, in Target, or Kroger's. That's just not how it works. Or how about these conflicts in the Ukraine, Russia, and Israel? And how about the American taxpayer? It seems like we've been paying for all of it. Now, we're not leaning onto any side here, but I do care about the American people, the very people who are part of this community. And that's also why I need you guys to be aware of this, because it could be one of the worst starts to a year for the United States. So bad, in fact, that we could very well start seeing cuts to programs such as Social Security. Either that or we're paying more for taxes.
And Rick, when you take into account the skyrocketing national debt that we have, pretty disappointing, concerning here at this point, yet voters don't seem to care.
Well, voters care in theory. Polls say that if you ask voters, is the national debt too high? Yes, it's too high. And just qualitatively, I mean, they sure complain about it when they write to me if I'm doing something on a related topic. But what voters don't want is the painful choices that would come with the solution. I mean, getting out of this problem means you either have to raise taxes or cut spending, and not cut spending by trivial numbers such as cancel some art spending or something like that. You have to take on the big programs where the money is, and that is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and defense. And so if you say to just about any voter, how do you feel about cutting Social Security? No way, don't do that. What about cutting Medicare for seniors or health care for poor people? Nah, we don't think that's a great idea either. What about raising taxes? Well, fine if you raise somebody else's taxes, just don't raise my taxes. And, the ability of the United States to borrow seemingly endlessly has gotten us into this problem. So it's no surprise at all we hit $34 trillion. We're going to hit $35 trillion probably later this year. And by the time the next president is out of office, we're going to hit $40 trillion in national debt.
Now, before we get any further into this, I want to go ahead and ask you guys something. Do any of you believe that it's fair to cut programs that we all paid into, much like Social Security, for the benefit to pay more on our national debt? Debt that, mind you, you and I didn't have a hand in. Comment a 1 if you think that it's absolutely fair, but comment 2 if you think that seniors and those on any kind of fixed income should not be paying for this. And while you guys are at it, please make sure to hit the like button for the video, and of course, subscribe to the channel. That way I can keep you guys updated and informed on everything that matters to you. Appreciate it, guys. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. They're not going to do cuts, and I think that's kind of accurate. I mean, it is an election year. They're not going to go out and piss off American people by doing that to people on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI. But they will, however, continue to play a game that kind of puts us on a very weird, if not uncomfortable spot. I mean, right now, all of us, and I'm talking about every single American here, we now owe $100,000 per person. Actually, a little bit more than $100,000 per person. And in the same light, they're also borrowing $75,000 per second. And I didn't stutter there. Per second, guys, just to cover expenses. Did you know, and I hope you guys are all ready for this, but did you know that interest payments on a national debt increased by 33% or $177 billion? That's billion with a B, folks. Medicare spending went up by 18% or around $126 billion, and 4% for Medicare, which is around $24 billion. Now, to be honest with you guys, it's kind of hard to fathom that we're talking about billions of dollars here like it was nothing. But that's where we are today, folks. And you also got experts that are worried that our government will just collapse and shut down one day. And like, they've only got until January 19th to finally get something figured out. That's a really short time frame from now. And you got to admit, they're not going anywhere when it comes to negotiations. But what's the big holdup here? Funding for Ukraine, funding for Israel, possible Taiwan, maybe even protection of our borders?
What we saw today only made House Republicans more resolved to stand for sanity and the American people, and we will do it. If President Biden wants a supplemental spending bill focused on national security, it better begin by defending America's national security.
So what he's saying, and I think this is important to note, he's saying that we're going to support billions of dollars of aid for both Ukraine and Israel, but with the understanding that the borders will be secured. Now, at this point, I think that the Biden administration is kind of asking for more than $100 billion in aid for Israel and Ukraine. And they don't, well, at least it doesn't look like they're willing to negotiate those numbers. In the same way, analysts feel as if Democrats don't want to do more at the borders because this would go against what they've said before, and it will kind of play into what Republicans have been alleging for some time now. Now, the reasoning behind what the Republicans are asking for is that the American people are letting them know that some things may be getting a little bit out of hand.
You understand the distinctions between immigration policy, border flow and management, which is its own thing, and the root causes, their own thing, why people are coming to this country. They are separate issues. If Democrats really wanted to lean into a solution to this, all they need to do is read your stuff. What can they do to own this issue as opposed to, constantly being on the defensive about it?
Well, thank you, Ali. What I hear from voters is this same question that you are echoing very loudly right now. What we hear from elected officials on the Democratic side, including the president, is just these no's. No, we shouldn't get rid of asylum. No, we shouldn't close the border. No, we shouldn't enact mass deportations. And then the question is, well, what should we actually do instead? I think that what almost all Americans agree on is that they want a system that works. And what most Americans agree on is that they want a system that is humane. Mm-hmm. And I think starting from a place where you have a functioning system, where you address the immigration court backlogs, where you have a place for people to go to apply to get a legal pathway into the United States if they've gone through vetting processes, that seems to be the baseline. And I agree that Democrats have been too scared to put forth any ideas as to how to go about doing this. There are a lot of resources being spent on border security and a lot of resources being spent on immigration. And there are people who know how to reorganize them to make this system work. It's just a matter of coming out of that defensive crouch that Democrats are in currently and actually putting forth a position, a plan.
Look at this, guys. San Diego residents are complaining that they're having problems with people chopping down their trees for firewood and they're camping out on their land, with both federal and local government officials not doing anything to intervene. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. There's many legal ways to get into the United States, but these people argue that these immigrants are coming in and they're living here at their expense. Now, again, talks are happening between both parties, so we're not real sure what's going to happen exactly. I think one of the worst case scenarios here is that we may see a government shutdown, especially since both sides don't want to meet in the middle. The question now is, will they do something about this? Should we expect cuts to our benefits? Should we expect taxes to just go up? Will they pass something before the deadline? Now, while I can't answer really any of these questions just yet, despite me wanting to set your minds at ease, it's the federal government and its officials. It's the lawmakers. They're going to have to make the final say. But what do you guys think about this? Make sure you let me know in the comment section down below. And before I go, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.